Hello YouTube, it's William here with Gophernoppers Trains, and today I have a locomotive review for you. This is the rather magnificent Rivarossi Union Pacific Big Boy 4884 steam locomotive. This one is a red box model. This is locomotive number 4004. They made two other kinds. There was the prototype, I don't remember the road number, but it was all black. The boiler was not silver, there were no silver accents. Excuse me. They had one that had a gray boiler front, very similar to the color used on my red box Hudson, which I have yet to talk about. And this one, which had the silver boiler front and trim. These are all excellent models. You'll more commonly find the all-black one with the cab-mounted motor. And let's go ahead and dive into the review. This one's probably going to be a bit longer simply because this locomotive is just so massive and I've got a lot to talk about. So anyways, let's get started. Alright, so this locomotive operates on a rather unusual drive. This thing uses the same drive as the other red box articulateds as far as I'm aware. This thing actually has a drive very similar to a diesel locomotive. It has an enclosed can motor in the center with a drive unit out here, a drive unit back here. The motor's in the center, and there are two connecting drive shafts that lead to either side. Now, this thing has excellent slow speed running and great performance at speeds, a very prototypical high speed, and the motor in the unit gives it a lot of power. This unit uses plastic gears with some brass gears. The majority of them are plastic. Now, when you get one of these, I would strongly recommend you do a full overhaul of the drive when you do. Now, this thing is very easy to service. There are, I believe, 3 screws you need to remove. One right here underneath all this lovely detailing. That one's a bit tricky. You're going to have to insert the screwdriver at an angle and make sure it's magnetic because you need to pull it out of there. There's one underneath the trailing truck. And there's one underneath this dome on the top which very carefully pulls off. And there's a small flathead screw underneath there, and the dome just snaps back into place. So servicing the unit is relatively easy. You really want to clear the old grease out of there and put new grease in. It'll improve the running quality tenfold, likely increase the top speed of the unit, and it will certainly increase the longevity of the unit. So if you get one of these, be sure to do that. Also keep in mind that my disassembly instructions may not apply to all units. Some of them may work a bit differently, so consult your exploded diagram for specific instructions. Now behind it I've got the box for the unit. This uses Rivarossi's red box system where the locomotive is on top, tender is on the bottom. Very nice packaging, it certainly looks great, and you can find the information about the locomotive on the side. So now that we've got all of that out of the way, there's one last thing I'd like to talk about before we start looking at all the detailing on the unit, and that's price. Now, they don't really make these anymore with this configuration. They, I believe a couple of years back, they produced a new run, but those have DCC and sound. So this is a review for the older ones, the red box models, so don't expect this to pertain to them necessarily. I don't know if it's new tooling or not on the modern ones, but I paid $125 for mine. I'm not sure how the, or what the brand new ones retail for, but I'd say I got a pretty dang good deal out of this one, especially considering the condition that it's in and how it runs. So, this one you're going to have to look out on the used market for. eBay will likely run you up about $200 for one of these. That includes shipping. So they're a bit pricey if you get it off of eBay, but if you can find it anywhere else, like a retailer, then you could probably get a decent discount off of it. So now that that's out of the way, let's go ahead and dive straight into the review. We're going to start at the front of the locomotive and work our way to the back. So here we are at the front of the unit, and now we can see a lot of the really great detailing on this engine. Starting from the pilot, we've got some very nice vertical bars in there, along with a couple cast-in hoses, some little steps over on this side. Moving up, we've got a cut lever, which is fixed in place, that's not really moving. These little posts here, they're very small and difficult to see, but I believe that you can actually attach small plastic flags to them if you make your own. Continuing to move up, we've got some steps on the side here, and that pertains to both sides as well. And on the front of this unit here, we've got some really nice cast-in detail, and it pops. It doesn't really look cast in. Now, moving up further, we've got a legible shield right here that says Union Pacific 4004. Again, more cast-in detail around that general area. On top of there, it's generally blank, but when we get to the side, you'll see that behind this little area here, there is some more separately applied detail, which I will take a look at when we get around to the other side. Moving up farther, we have the operating headlight right here, and there are number boards on the side, although they aren't stamped and they aren't lit. We've got some stamped in safety tread right here up at the front, and some, I believe these are chemically blackened grab irons on the side. Now when we take a look at the side of the front of the Pilot, you'll see this really great piece of detailing right here, which are some hoses, which I believe are for water cooling, but those are very neat. Continuing up the side, we've got the start of the grab irons that run all the way back to the cab. We've got a grab iron across the front of the smoke box door. A lot of really great rivet detailing around the outside of the smoke box door. We've got a swinging bell up top, 2 number boards which are not stamped or marked, and 2 marker lights on the front of the boiler. So that's about all the detail on the front of the unit. You're not going to be able to see quite as much up there, and I do believe that this coupler guard does swing open. It does. So there is a dummy scale coupler on the inside of the Pilot, which is a very cool feature as well. So now we're going to go ahead and move on to the first set of drive gear, and I'll see you guys there. Okay, so here we are. Now we're looking at the side of the locomotive where the front drive gear is located. Now you can really see that they've crammed a lot of detail into this area. You can now see the hoses along the side right here where the grab irons are. I believe that is actually specific to this road number as well. Inside here we can see some, I believe those are compressors, but those tanks I was talking about before, that does continue down to the bottom of the Pilot. The stamped safety tread on the walkways is very nice and visible. Up top we can see the dual smokestacks, whistle, some really nice rivet detailing around there, some rivet detailing going down the sides, and the throttle linkage which is cast into the side of the boiler. Excuse me, I am still recovering from that last bit of pharyngitis, and it is nearly gone. It's just that there are a couple lingering symptoms, so I'm going to sound a bit weird when I talk. Continuing down the side, we've got some very nice rivet detailing on the pistons here. Really nice pipe right here that actually does swivel with the articulated front of the locomotive, which I'll show you later as we run it. There's another larger pipe on the inside, and that detail is exactly the same on the other side. Now here's the Pilot truck, and the wheels are painted black, which is a very nice touch. Moving back, we've got an exceptionally long piston rod here, and I don't know if that's prototypical or not. I believe it is. I just thought that was very cool when I saw it for the first time. We've got full moving valve gear up here, which also looks really great when the locomotive is in motion. That runs all the way back to the valve gear linkage and the 4 drive wheels, and of course they look great while the unit is in motion. Down the side of the boiler we've got a ton of cast-in detail, which you're going to have to look at in greater detail. I can't really see it, but anyways, that's the first set of drive gear, so we're going to move on to the second, and I'll see you guys over there. Okay, so here we are. We're at the second set of drive gear. One last thing I forgot to mention is the domes up top are also very nicely detailed with some nice cast-in detail along there. So you can't really see it, but the dome back there is identical to this one. So this time we're going to start from the top and work our way down. So we've got some nice pop-off valves on top here. Those are separately applied and not cast in. Here we have a cast-in, I believe that's a steam dome. Sand dome is back here. Excuse me. Moving back a little bit farther, we can see the dynamo is attached to the top of the boiler right there. Got some really cool cast-in detail around the back towards the cab. We have a single cab vent that does not open, that is fixed in place, and some really nice rivet detailing on top of the cab. We've got windows that do not have any inserts in them. They are clear, or excuse me, they are empty. Moving farther down the side, we've got more great cast-in detail. The handrail, which is separately applied, continues all the way to the back of the unit. Moving down to the firebox, we've got a ton of rivet detailing here, and surprisingly this piping is cast in, but looking at it in person, it really doesn't look like it. It very much looks separately applied. But tons of rivet detailing and some cast in pipe detailing down there that also looks great. Continuing down, we do have one detailing piece missing here, and that is my fault. When I was doing my overhaul, I broke off one of the valves, and that would normally be right there. I still have the piece, and I will be reattaching it in the future, but for now, it is off the unit because I don't want to be running it and have it fall off and me lose it. So I'm going to work on a much more professional reattachment job later. So continuing towards the back, we've got more wonderful piping detail down here, along with a step and some more valve detailing. Excuse me. Down here we've got the rear truck, which also has a lot of great cast-in detail. Moving to the front of the drive unit, we've got the piston, which has more great rivet detailing on it, and essentially the same set of drive gear. Now, one thing I should note about the Rivarossi model is that both sets of drive gear are actually articulated. You'll see this when we run it around the curves. It becomes much more obvious. However, it really isn't even that noticeable on 22-inch radius, which is also, I believe, the minimum curve radius for this locomotive. Could be 18, but I'm not sure. For the sake of comfort, it looks a lot better on 22. So anyways, we've taken a look at both sides of the running gear. The other side of the locomotive is the same with the exception of the throttle linkage. That is the only missing detail. Everything else is the same on that side, and the dynamo is more towards that, but you've seen all of the separately applied details. So we're going to go ahead and move to the back head, then tender, and then I'll show you how it runs. Alright, so now we're taking a look at the back head of the locomotive. However, this time I'm freehanding it to show you more of the detail around this unit. Hang on, let me fold the screen out quick so I can see what I'm doing. Here we have the 3-position drawbar, which is very helpful. Now, one thing you'll notice is that the tender does not provide power pickup. It's just along for the ride in this instance. We've got a ton of really nice looking cast-in and separately applied detail down here. That's also on the other side. Now, looking at the back inside the cab, I apologize as it's not very well lit at all, and I don't know if you can really see much, but there's a ton of really nice cast-in detail in there, along with some separately applied stuff. None of it is painted, but there's valves and piping and a smoke box door, and it all looks great. Unfortunately, it's not lighted, but that's not really a big issue for me. Other than that, that's about it for back head detail, so I'll go ahead over to the tender and we'll take a look at that. Okay, so here we are. We're taking a look at the tender now. So I'm going to try to speed this along so that the video doesn't run too long. It's already going to be long enough, and I'll likely be uploading this for about 3 hours or so because for whatever reason my videos upload, really long. But anyways, let's go ahead and take a look. I'll be freehanding this one, but from the start of the from the front of the tender, we can see some really nice cast-in detail. Unfortunately, this isn't as detailed as I would like. However, it's not really a big deal because you can't see it really at all when it's in motion. Got some grab irons on the side, and the bend in this one is my fault. I ran it into the side of the locomotive when I was rolling it up once. I'm not going to mess with it too much because it's fun. The side of the tender has a lot of really great cast-in rivet detail, and it looks really good. We've got some ladders on the side, which lead up to the top, where we've got some nice cast-in detail on the tender deck, and some grab irons. The coal load looks pretty good. Not the most realistic coal load I have, but not the worst either. I don't have any complaints about it. I think it looks good. Other side is essentially the same, and the lettering on the side is pretty good looking. Back of the tender, I really like this part of it too. It's got a pseudo backup light in there. Doesn't actually operate. Got a horn hook coupler on the back, which is also my favorite. Some nice decals on the back. They're not decals they're painted on, but they still look really nice. And some nice cast-in rivet detailing. Now on the underside of the tender, there is one anomaly. Now the front truck and the most of the centipede is normal, but then you've got this wheel set that actually swivels. I believe that's to allow better clearance. Just be wary of that whenever you're re-railing it. And you can tell right now, but it doesn't look out of place at all when the unit is on the track. So with that, we've taken a look at all the detailing the unit has to offer. So let's go ahead and watch it run. Okay, so here we are, we're on the track, and I'm going to show you slow speed performance first, and then I'm going to zoom out and show you more at speed performance. Now I'm doing this so you can see how the locomotive performs on the low end better when it's zoomed out. So I'm going to go ahead, head over and switch on the layout, and we'll start running it. Alright, so the layout is switched on. Now, for those of you who have keen eyes, when we do the running section of the video, you might notice that the lights in my station have changed. The old incandescent bulb that I put in there burned out, so I replaced it with an LED light strip. It's bright white, and I'm eventually going to make that yellow. But anyways, I'm going to pull my chair up and we'll start running it. So here we go. Slow speed and forward. Please keep in mind that I'm using a DC controller, so I have to be very careful with it, but as you can see, really nice smooth startup, and it carries the low speeds very well. I'm going to back it up again. Unfortunately, I can't just set it to speed step 1 or whatever you DCC people do. So as you can see, still some really nice low speed performance. Now, this thing performs a little bit better in forward than it does in backward. Backward is a little bit lurchy. I've noticed this with all of my Rivarossi units. They all run better in forward for some reason. So you can kick it up a notch to move it back a little bit faster. Now I'll do some more slow speed and forward. See just how low we can go. So not bad. I'm trying to get it to keep moving constantly without lurching or stopping. This is about the best I can get on this DC controller. I'm pretty sure if you added a DCC decoder you could do a little better, but it's very smooth and very silent. It does get a bit noisy when it runs at speed, but that's not really an issue for me because I don't mind noisy engines. That said, this thing isn't actually that loud. But anyways, now we're going to go ahead, zoom out, and I'll show you how it runs at speed. Okay, so here we are. We're all zoomed out. Now I can show you how this thing runs at higher speeds. I don't have a lot of room to run though because I've got the consist that this engine will eventually be pulling on the track already. But here we go. Let's move it forward. So you can see what I mean. It's not the most quiet locomotive ever. However, it's pretty good. I don't know if you can see it or not. When I look at it, I can see that the rear set of drivers is articulated, but only because I'm actually looking for it. If I don't, it doesn't appear obvious at all. And you do get a bit more gear noise in reverse. I don't know why. I guess that's just the way that this locomotive runs. That's also how most of my other Rivarossis work as well. Anyways, now I'm going to run it at full speed past the camera really quick, so here we go. There it is, that's full speed. So a nice prototypical full speed, and it looks really good operating on full. Might I add that the valve gear on the drive sets are very well coordinated. They all look exactly the same in motion, and they all look great. So anyways, that's how it runs at speed. I'm going to take you over to the running action shots now, and that'll be it. Okay, so we are just about ready to send the locomotive and consist on its way. Now, before we do, I'd like to give my final thoughts on the unit and its power. So, I have to say, this is the largest locomotive I own, and it is one of my favorites. This engine is awesome. I love it. I run it a lot. I'm really enjoying my time with it so far, and given that I've serviced it recently, it will provide many years of reliable service to come. Now, another thing is that this engine is crazy powerful. I've got some powerful engines. This isn't, Broadway limited big boy levels of power, but it's the closest thing I've got. Now, this thing is strong. The consist I've got on right now is a good majority of my box cars. This thing outpulls my Mehano GG1 by a mile. Look at this thing. It covers more than half the layout, if you can see the caboose over there. So this thing can pull a crazy long consist at speed. It'll take it in its stride. I could probably add more cars with no problem. There is no wheel slip when I start this thing up. No. Ooh, excuse me. Of course, that is helped by the set of traction tires on the unit. However, I think if you took them off, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. I'm leaving them on there because they just help. There's no problems with running because of them, and I think that the pulling power is great. So anyways, that's going to be it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Please rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. So let's go roll it out.